Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the first part of Chapter 10, which covers a new market structure called monopolistic competition. We've talked about perfectly competitive markets and monopolistic markets, and we said that a lot of real-world industries fall somewhere in between the two. And so we're going to start talking about these in-between market structures with monopolistic competition. So what a monopolistically competitive market is it's essentially an imperfectly competitive market. It has some features of competition and some features of monopoly. So any market that exhibits monopolistic competition is going to have the following traits. There will be many different firms, but those firms are going to be selling differentiated products. They're not all selling the same identical good. And there's going to be low or no barriers to enter and exit in this monopolistically competitive market. So the key idea that we need here for monopolistic competition is that firms must be able to differentiate their products from those that are sold by their competitors. So product differentiation occurs when firms use some process to make their product look more attractive by showing that it has unique qualities compared to those goods that are sold by other firms. Different firms in different markets can differentiate their products from the products of their competitors in a couple different ways. First is that they can differentiate these products by style or by type. And the easiest example of this is clothing brands or shoe brands. Different brands are going to sell different styles of clothing to appeal to certain customers and make their products stand out compared to others. Products can also be differentiated by location or by convenience. So there could be a 7-Eleven right next to my house, and there could be a Circle K a couple miles down the street. But that 7-Eleven is going to benefit from this product differentiation because the 7-Eleven is closer to me. It's more convenient for me to shop there than it would be for me to shop at Circle K a couple miles away, even though both stores are selling pretty much the same stuff. Lastly, firms can try to differentiate their products based on quality. So we can think of the difference between buying a regular pair of sneakers or a designer pair of sneakers. There's some kind of differentiation happening here where the designer brand is trying to convince you that their shoes have some unique quality or some better quality that should make you want to buy them over the cheaper substitute shoes. So as we said, monopolistic competition falls in between perfect competition and monopoly. Under perfect competition, consumers benefit from low prices and our market is efficient, while under monopoly, less output is sold, we have some inefficiency, and a higher price is charged. Under monopolistic competition, more output is produced than would be under monopoly, but we're not quite at that perfectly competitive level of output. Additionally, lower prices are charged than what we would see under monopoly, but not quite to that really low perfect competition price level. So a monopolistically competitive market is still not efficient, but it's much more efficient than a monopolistic market would be. And even though this monopolistic competition isn't perfectly efficient, this product differentiation actually benefits consumers. Because all of these different firms are trying these different strategies to make their products more attractive, consumers might have more variety and more choices that better suit their specific tastes for certain goods and services. If we want to talk about how a firm behaves in a monopolistically competitive market, we're going to see that it really is a blend between perfect competition and monopoly. So all firms are always using this first part of this profit maximizing rule. They're going to produce at the level of output where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. But our monopolistic competitor is going to behave kind of like a monopoly. It's going to set the price of its product using the demand curve. And this is because that product differentiation awards these monopolistic competitors some monopoly power or some market power. Because their product is somewhat unique, they have the ability to influence the price of that good. So here's our graph for our demand curve, marginal revenue curve, and cost curves for a monopolistically competitive firm. So a monopolistic competitor is going to face a downward sloping demand curve, but it's going to be a lot flatter than the demand curve was for a perfect monopoly. So again, this is kind of that combination or that in-between between perfect competition and monopoly. Under perfect competition, our firms faced a completely horizontal demand curve. Under monopoly, our firms faced a much more steep demand curve. So here, we're right in between. We have this flatter, but still downward sloping demand curve. Our monopolistic competitor is going to have this downward sloping marginal revenue curve that sits below the demand curve. And our other cost curves are the same as they've been whenever we talk about profit maximization. So our monopolistic competitor is going to choose to produce at the level of output where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. And let's call this Q star. But it's not going to set its price to be equal to marginal cost. It's going to set that price based on the demand curve so that it can charge a price greater than its marginal cost. So the price charged by this monopolistic competitor, let's call P star. Now, the way that we calculate profit or loss for a monopolistic competitor and their operation or shutdown condition is the same as they have been for both perfect competition and monopoly. So in this example, the way that I've drawn the graph, when my monopolistic competitor is producing output Q star to maximize its profit, the price that it receives is greater than its average total cost to produce. So this monopolistic competitor is earning some positive profit. Now let's think about what happens in the long run for a monopolistically competitive firm. In the short run, a monopolistic competitor can earn positive profits, it could break even, or it could incur a loss, a negative profit. But in the long run, we're going to see that a monopolistic competitor should earn zero economic profit. And this is because we have those low barriers to enter and exit the market. So this is the part of monopolistic competition that's going to be more similar to perfect competition. Under perfect competition, because firms could freely enter and exit the market, when there was some long-term positive profit, new firms would enter, push down the price, and reduce profits back to zero. When firms were earning a loss, some firms would exit, that would push price back up, and get us back to that zero economic profit. The same thing is going to happen here for a monopolistic competitor. If profits are positive, new firms enter, and the price falls. This causes profits to shrink back down to zero. If monopolistic competitors were earning some negative profit in the long run, firms would exit, that would push the price back down, and get us back to that zero long-run economic profit. So those barriers to entry are what allow a perfect monopoly to earn positive economic profits in the long run. Because there's nobody there to compete with them, they can just continue earning profits indefinitely into the future. All right, the last thing that we want to talk about here is the prevalence and importance of advertising in a monopolistically competitive market. So when we talked about product differentiation, we said that a monopolistic competitor is going to try to make its product stand out compared to the product that's sold by its competitors. It can do this by style, location and convenience, or budget and quality signaling. Now, the reason why a monopolistic competitor wants to differentiate its product is because it wants to make its good more unique to consumers. It wants to tell them, hey, we're the only ones who sell this good, you can't get it anywhere else. So when a monopolistic competitor engages in product differentiation, they're trying to make their product seem more special or more unique. So what they want is to make their demand more inelastic. They want consumers to feel like their specific version of this product is absolutely necessary and that they can't get it anywhere else. With a more inelastic demand curve, the monopolistic competitor is going to be able to charge a higher price. The steeper the demand curve, the more dramatic that difference will be between price and marginal cost. Advertising also serves this same purpose. So when a monopolistic competitor is engaging in advertising, they're trying to increase demand for their product, and they are trying to make that demand more inelastic. They want consumers to feel like they absolutely gotta have this product. Some advertising does also provide information to consumers about the actual features of a product, but a lot of advertising can be kind of manipulative or misleading. They want you to feel as though you need this good. When a monopolistic competitor successfully performs some kind of advertising, two things are going to happen to the demand curve. First, that advertising is going to reach new customers, and it's going to make those new customers want to buy this product. So essentially, those are new buyers that are entering the market. So first, advertising is going to increase demand or shift the demand curve to the right. But this advertising is also going to make demand more inelastic. And so this is going to make the new shifted demand curve more steep. Before this monopolistic competitor advertises, it's going to produce this quantity of output here, and it's going to charge this price based on its original demand curve. If it successfully engages in advertising, then it's going to push this demand curve outward and make it more steep. So maybe it looks something like this now. This also affects the monopolistic competitor's marginal revenue curve. And now we see that the monopolistic competitor is going to produce a larger quantity, but it's going to be able to charge a higher price when it does that. So this is the monopolistic competitor's goal: increase demand and make that demand more inelastic. But we're not considering the key caveat here. Advertising costs money, so it also increases the firm's costs. So monopolistic competitors want to advertise so they can increase demand and make demand for their product more inelastic to boost the price that they're able to charge, but this might not always be what happens in reality. And this is due to something that we call the negative business stealing externality. So this is an external cost that is imposed on other firms when they all decide. So this is some external cost that is imposed on other firms when one firm decides to advertise for its product. So let's think about this with the example of the pizza market. So suppose that one firm, Domino's, decides to run some commercials to advertise its pizza. That is going to cost Domino's some money. It's going to increase the cost for Domino's, but those ads are going to cause its sales to increase, and it's going to allow Domino's to recoup its costs. If nobody else in this industry advertises, then Domino's is like, awesome. I can run some ads, I can increase my sales, and I can grow my business. But of course, that's not what's going to happen, right? Some of those other firms that are competing in this monopolistically competitive market that are selling different kinds of pizza, like Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, Papa John's, they're also going to start running ad campaigns. They're not going to let Domino's increase sales and not do anything about it. So now all of these competitors respond with their own ad campaigns. All of these pizza shops are seeing increases in their costs, but when they all advertise, there's really going to be no net change in sales. They're all trying to steal customers from each other, and it's probably going to come out as a wash. So the result is that sales don't increase for any single seller, but costs increase for all sellers. Each pizza shop is going to believe that it needs to advertise, but none of them are actually going to see the benefits of this advertising. Lastly, why is advertising prevalent in a monopolistically competitive market, but not so much under perfect competition or monopoly? Well, under perfect competition, all of our firms are selling an identical good, so there's nothing really special for them to brag about in an advertisement. It's just going to increase their costs, and it's not going to help them to produce more efficiently. An example of advertising in a perfectly competitive market is something like the Got Milk commercial. We have all of these different dairy producers in the US that are producing an essentially identical product, so they can band together as the entire dairy industry and advertise for milk in general. But typically we don't see ads for specific milk brands trying to sell their specific brand of milk to consumers. Under monopoly, a monopoly just doesn't really need to advertise. If it's the only firm that's selling a specific good or service, then it knows consumers need to get that good from them only. So monopolies might advertise just to remind consumers that they exist, or maybe share some information with consumers about the product. But monopolies are not so worried about stealing customers from other competing firms because they have no one to compete with. So under monopolistic competition, because these firms are trying to differentiate their product from their competitors, we see that advertising is very common. And this is some good intuition for us because we said that perfect competition and monopoly are these two extreme types of market structures. In reality, most of our markets fall somewhere in this monopolistically competitive framework. In the real world, we do see lots of product differentiation and lots of advertising. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.